All right. So today I want to help you answer the question I get asked all the time. What do I need to do to grow my business? And it's always a marketing question, right? What tactic, what they really mean when people ask me that is, what tactic, which of the umpteen million marketing tactics out there is the one I should do that will grow my business? Now, this is a very fair question, right? As entrepreneurs, that's what we're looking for. How do we grow our business? This is a very normal question to ask. And my usual response to that is the very annoying, let's face it, the very annoying answer, well, that depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. What is the outcome that you're trying to accomplish, right? So everything in business needs to be reverse engineered. And I fully still stand behind this process. Everything needs to be reverse engineered. So you have to know what is the outcome that you're trying to accomplish before you know or can decide which marketing tactic or which business strategy or which piece of your very complicated business puzzle has to be adjusted in order to achieve the outcome that you want. One of the things I say over and over again is strategy before tactic every single time. And this is one of the reasons why. The tactic depends on your overall business strategy, on your overall marketing strategy, on your strengths, on your weaknesses, the things you love to do, the things you hate to do, the things you're good at doing, the things you're bad at doing. And if all you do is pick a marketing tactic that's out of alignment, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for you the way it might work for others. Doesn't make the tactic bad. Doesn't mean that the people teaching you and selling access to these tactics are bad or wrong. It just means that tactic might not be the right one for you. So number one, yes, you need to know what it is you're trying to accomplish. What is the outcome you're trying to reach before you can figure out which tactics and strategies will get you there. But I want to go a little bit deeper on this because this has come up a lot lately with my clients, with myself, a big one with myself, and I'll share that with you. And I want you to ask yourself a bit of a different question, So you're trying to grow your business. You're looking at all the different tactics and strategic approaches out there. And not just ask yourself, what are you trying to accomplish? But ask yourself, why this approach, right? We've all heard start with your why, and that really, the big why. Why are you even doing this? What's your motivation behind wanting to grow your business? And that's very important. But I want you to bring it down. What if we brought it down to why are we doing this? Why are we writing this book? Why do we want our own podcast? Why do we want to create YouTube videos? Why do we want to do any of this? Because depending on that answer is more important than even what you're trying to accomplish. Because even more than a little bit of a misalignment in the outcome you're trying to get, if your why behind choosing the tactics you're choosing is a bit messed up, they don't work, or they just don't work as well. So the questions that you can ask yourself around why this tactic, you might be thinking about writing a book. You might be thinking about starting a blog. Right, we know there's umpteen million tactics out there. And again, I really cannot iterate enough that none of these tactics are wrong inherently, but they might be wrong for you if you're not clear on why that approach. So some of the pitfalls that I have found over and over again, if the why behind why you're choosing that tactic is because that's how you're supposed to do it, but it doesn't align with you, odds are that tactic won't work. A lot of the people who teach the tactics, it worked for them. Which is fantastic. That's amazing. It worked for them. But that doesn't 100% always mean it works for you. You have to know your why. One example, let's use social media as an example. I do really feel that in this day and age, most businesses, not every business, but most businesses need some version of a social media presence. Why? Because that's kind of how it works now. Again, not saying there's not exceptions, but truthfully, you'll go meet somebody in real life, and then they go back right after you leave this nice luncheon you went to, this chamber event that you went to, this symposium, this convention, this whatever, however you met this person. We all do the same weird thing. We leave that conversation that we had with the real person, and then we go check them out on social media and connect to them via social media, as if you're not a real person, you're not a real business unless you have a social media presence. So in effect, in this day and age, the truth of the matter is, for most, not all, but for most businesses, some version of a social media presence means that you're open for business. And a lack of a presence can be interpreted as if you're no longer open for business. So social media is a marketing strategy, right? Social media as a whole is a strategy that we do have to consider. But in terms of the tactics, the way you approach it, that has to be more connected to your why. You don't have to be on every platform. You don't have to be the perfect mixture of short form and long form and video and memes and engagement questions and one-word marketing and all the different tactics that we can use with social media. You have to use the version that's in alignment with you. You have to use the version that's in alignment with you. Because if it's not, you won't do it. You won't do a good job at it, even if you do it. Your true self won't come through. And for most of us in these service-based businesses where we're really doing business to business, and especially if you're doing entrepreneur to entrepreneur, people buy from people. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if you're just dialing it in to check a box because somebody else said this is the exact way you have to do it, that energy comes through. That energy comes through. The other thing about social media for most of us is most of us don't yet use social media as a sales funnel. We use it as a credential. Unless you have this massive intention behind it, it's truly a credential, a way for you to get your message out, a way for people to know you exist, and a way for people to get to know, like, and trust you, your content, your point of view on the world. Unless you put the attention and money and effort behind it, it's not actually inherently a sales funnel. That's not how it works. That's why most people get it wrong. They think that, oh, if I just post this one thing and then the money just comes flying in. That's not really how it works. It's a way to connect to people, hence the word social. So we get very frustrated because it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. So ask yourself why. Why am I doing this approach to social media? Now, if you learn an approach to social media and you are all lit up about it and you can't wait to get out there and make it your own and do it for yourself, by all means, do it. By all means, follow that guide. But this is the litmus test. The why has to be about you, not about them. Well, it worked for so-and-so, and that's why I'm doing it. If the why behind what you're choosing to do is chasing things, seldom works. When I teach sales, for example, one of the things I say to people kind of to wrap up the conversation is, what happens when we chase people? They run away. When people feel chased, they run away. So if you're trying to choose a marketing tactic for your business and you have any energy that you're chasing and trying to get somebody to do something, that's seldom a very good why for your efforts behind it. It doesn't mean that the tactic won't work. Here's a perfect example. It doesn't mean that the tactic won't work, but you probably have to change your approach to it. And I'll give you an example. About a year and a half ago, I outlined a book that I wanted to write. I've written books before. I have a journalism degree. I have an MBA in marketing. So writing and content is something that I do enjoy. So I knew I wanted to do that for my business, and I wanted to use it as a lead magnet, as a high level business card. Like I had all the reasons why. And so I outlined the book. Never wrote it. Never wrote it. And got busy doing other things. Fast forward, it's got to be a year. And I'm like, you know what? I've been called to do this again. I really want to revisit this. So I went back and I looked at, I'm like, okay, it's time. So I went back and I pulled up the outline that I had written. It was completely outlined. I was excited about it at the time, but just wasn't feeling it. But I looked at what I put together and I hated everything about it. I hated everything about it. It was horrible. It was horrible. And what I realized was my why behind wanting to write the book was all wrong. It was all wrong. At the time, what I wanted was to write a book that would, quote unquote, solve my challenges with client acquisition, right? I wanted to greatly increase client acquisition. So I was trying to write a book that would figure out what perfect thing could I say, and I knew better, but you know, we all trip on this stuff. What could I say to get somebody to buy from me? What could I say to grow my audience? My why was chasing. My why was grasping. My why was, how do I get somebody to do a thing? And we can't get other people to do a thing. We really can't. And so I threw it away. I'm like, this is not anything that I wanted to create. And instead, I looked at and I thought, what do I want the world to know? When I first, this was the best question, one of the best questions I've ever been asked. When I first entered the world out of corporate and my franchise into, I didn't even know this coaching thing was a thing, consulting, my own business, things like that. One of the best questions when I got started with my mentor about wanting to write a book, wanting to, you know, grow my keynote speaking business, he asked me, what do you want the world to know? And I knew it instantly. A lot of people had challenges with it. I knew it instantly. What I want the world to know is that if you don't make decisions for you, people who are not vested in you will make those decisions for you. Doesn't make those people bad or wrong. They could be lawyers, they could be the government, they could be doctors. They're just doing their job, but their priorities might not be the same as yours. And my point of view on your relationships, your money, your business is that if your job, all of it, your health, if you don't make the decisions for you, people who are not vested in you get to make those decisions for you. Now, the challenge comes when we have to do the inner work to get to the point where we're confident in making those decisions and we're not battling old demons. And, you know, how do we do that? And that's the book that I wanted to write. That's the story that I wanted to get out, was my journey from knowing that in my head, and how did I get to where I can live it in my body, where I can embody it. I outlined that book, that story, the story that I couldn't wait to get out into the world. I was able to outline that in a morning. And the ideas have just been flowing because I'm not chasing anymore. I'm not, right, going back to why. Why am I doing this? I'm not doing this to get anything from it other than I need to get this message out into the world. Now, will there be a book funnel and hopefully presentations and book event? Like, yeah, we're going to take all the actions. None of this is to replace taking all the actions. But you have to know the why behind your approach. Why this strategy? Why this tactic? It can't only be because it worked for someone else. It can't only be because that's how you're quote unquote supposed to do it. It can't only be because you're trying to get somebody to do something. And I'll give you one last one. It can't only be out of fear. It can't only be out of lack and fear and scarcity that tells you you're not allowed to do something bigger, right? It can't, if the tactics you're choosing are from fear, and I guess what it really comes down to is what's the energy behind it? What's the energy behind what you're choosing to do? If your approach is based on any fear, lack, or scarcity, it's going to be a challenge to succeed. It's going to be a challenge to succeed. Whether it's I'm worried I'll look stupid on the internet, been there. Whether it's worried I can't charge enough for that speaking gig because I'm not good enough yet, been there. Like if it's worried about other people have done this before, they're better than I am at it, why should I even bother? Been there. If that's your why, if you're choosing to play small, that won't work either. When you look at what approach you want to take to growing your business, because the fact of the matter is you have a business, and to have a business, you need customers. And for have customers, the world needs to know in some way that you have a business. Like there's some truths to how this works that we can't really get around. But after that, what would happen for you? What would be possible for you if instead of, I'll switch it around. What would be possible for you is if the why behind the tactics and strategies you chose for growing your business were all because you just couldn't wait to get that message out into the world. When you're trying to figure out what to do, ask yourself that. Ask yourself that. And if your why is because this absolutely has to happen, now you're on the right path. Now you can start measuring and tweaking the way marketing works. But you have to start with why, not just your big why, but why am I choosing to do this very thing?